What is up, League? Today I will be going over the week 1 matchups. If you are looking for a rankings video, that is not this video. I don't really want to overreact to any of the things that happen this week. I might go into my mindset a little bit when I'm going over matchups on changes I might make. I do plan to make updated rankings every 2 weeks. If you don't like that, you can say something. Maybe I'll switch it, maybe not. Um, but yeah, let's just dive right in. And actually, before we do that, I'm gonna go over to the waiver order and or waiver wire and all the transactions that were made. Um, and just come over here. And where is the waiver? Recent activity. Actually, how do I do this again? I did. Oh, there we go. Waiver report. So I didn't know. I don't know if you guys know this. Um, and I don't know when this even became a feature on ESPN, but you can actually see every single person that tried to acquire a different player. So maybe you can get in the mindset of who people want, or just like if you got a really good pick, like in Leo's case, you know, majority of the teams were trying to get Dylan Sampson. I'm assuming because of his uh, you know, large share of the carries for the Browns. I don't necessarily know if it means that much. Quinton Judkins, I'm assuming, will, you know, kind of mix up that backfield more. And he's not really a player I cared to get. And I could be dead wrong. But we'll have to wait and find out. Christian got Zach Ertz. Leo's also interested. Quentin Johnston seems to be the other one who a lot of teams were interested in. He had a really good game. It's hard to see if it'll stick or not, but week 1 you just gotta send everything you got. Colts defense. I don't know why. I feel like I would rather have the Rams defense over the Colts, but it is what it is. Clear as I put that in. I picked up Britton Strange. Obviously because I lost George Kittle, I needed somebody. Um, Allen Geno Smith. Ryan is also interested for his Bills defense. Oh, right. Oh, no, no, Ryan was going to pick a Bills defense, but he got the Rams defense. I see. And then Allen got Jawan Johnson, who got a lot of targets this week, so it makes sense. But we'll go ahead and get into the matchups now. Scoreboard. Go to week 1. And so the first match I guess we'll be going over is mine versus the Bosses. This is a very close game. It came down to Monday night, and I was very, very worried as the Vikings had looked very poorly. But alas, I ended up coming out on top, and let's kind of get into it. Um, so clearly from my team, you can tell that I had a saving grace, and his name is Josh Allen, or Fantasy Jesus, resurrected my team from the dead. Um, and you know, he, this is why I took Josh Allen because even if you think the week is lost, there's always a chance as long as he still hasn't played. And so I'm obviously very happy with that pick. Isaiah Pacheco, I mean, the usage was minimal as the Chiefs had looked very poor. And honestly, I was pretty disappointed. I mean, the Chargers absolutely slammed them in the first half, and they need to pass the ball in the second half, so it makes sense. I think he'll have better games, but clearly, I mean, I think him and Kareem Hunt have the same amount of carries, so not feeling so hot about that pick right now. But it's a long season. We'll have to see what happens. J.K. Dobbins. I was also very worried about him and R.J. Harvey for a while. For anyone who watched that Tennessee Denver game, I feel bad for you, and anyone who didn't, you should feel glad because it was a terrible game. Uh, you know, both offenses didn't look very good. I thought Cam Ward had some good moments, but everyone was just dropping passes, and his line was horrible. But for J.K. Dobbins' sake, Bo Nix looked like he couldn't do anything, and I'm definitely thinking about moving him down on my rankings for Colin. Um, and you know, the offense just didn't look very good early on. The third string running back Tyler Batty was actually getting quite a bit of usage relative to what I expected, and I was kind of panicking. But around I think I believe it was in the third quarter, RJ Harvey ripped off a 50-yard run, making up majority of his fantasy points, and then J.K. Dobbins finished that drive. I believe he finished that drive, not the next one, with a 17-yard touchdown, and so that kind of bolstered my team up a little bit. I'm actually very happy because this is one of the big decisions I made was to play J.K. Dobbins over Chris Olave, and it ended up working out for me. So yeah, Justin Jefferson, I was a little disappointed in. Um, you know, I didn't know. I mean, I don't watch much college football, so like I didn't truly know how bad JJ McCarthy was gonna be coming in at first, and I in my mind I figured they were trading away, or I don't even know if they traded Sam Darnold or let him walk. I don't even remember. But clearly they didn't add anybody, and to me, they had confidence in JJ McCarthy. So, I don't know why you'd put him out there if he wasn't ready, but he kind of redeemed himself in the second half. He had a great fourth quarter. Or that's just the Bears falling apart. We'll have to see on their next week's game when they play. Who do they play? They play Atlanta. Which Atlanta had a pretty fun week. I don't know if anyone watched that game, but it was a good one. Um, Brian Thomas didn't feel so hot about this one. He caught one of seven passes. I don't actually blame him almost at all. It's entirely on Trevor Lawrence, and I had mentioned in the first video that I hate Trevor Lawrence. Well, I don't hate Trevor Lawrence, but I don't think he's that good. And I felt like he was missing a lot of passes in this game against a weak Carolina team. So I'm a little bit nervous. Obviously, I mentioned earlier George Kittle got hurt. So on the rankings, I'm gonna have to move myself down quite a bit. It's gonna put my team in a very tough spot. And I obviously think my team gets worse losing him. Hopefully Britton Strange is okay. I went more on the risky side on uh, I believe he's a rookie, if not a very young player. Um, Defense kicker don't really matter, don't care. My bench overall, I was actually pretty happy with. Isaac Orindo and Christian Kirk to me are, well, yeah, it's not handcuffs. Christian Kirk was hurt. He didn't even play. I said, I meant to say Rashad White. Rashad White and Isaac Reno to me are handcuffs. I actually dropped Deontay Thornton this morning and picked up Kevin Booty. I think he has potential value. He's been playing good his last four games going into last year, and so we'll see. But Khalil Shakir played pretty good on a high scoring game. He wasn't the focal point of the offense, so he's not a wide receiver one at all in my eyes. But I mean, 9.4, not bad, and he had nine targets. Nine targets is good. I'll take that usage. Jordan Mason, I thought looked very good in this game, even when like the offense looked pretty poor. I thought he was playing pretty well. And Chris Olave, he's at least getting the usage. I don't think the team's very good, but 7 receptions on 13 targets, you get that usage. It's a usable player. Um, Going on to Abbasa's side, I actually think Abbasa's team, even though he didn't win this week, it was fairly impressive. Specifically his bench. If you look, I think I had mentioned I thought Abbasa's team in the original is a team that I ranked a little bit lower. Not the lowest. Let me pull it up real quick. I ranked him at 9, but I could see him going to like the 3 range. And I still believe that because his bench is so good. And so to me, that seems like it adds a lot of depth. We'll have to see if it stays that way, because it's hard to evaluate defenses early on. Maybe he's just playing a bunch of bad defenses, or a lot of his matchups were, but uh, I'll get more into the individual players in a second, but I'll start with that. I thought his bench was pretty impressive this week, other than Tua. Um, but Kyler Murray, I didn't. really watch the New Orleans games, so I can't really speak on it much. I did see that there was a potential for a 97-yard touchdown that didn't happen. But like, I mean, he did about what he was projected, so it is what it is. They play Carolina next week. I would look to see and hope that he puts up more points against Carolina. Chase Brown, I was a little bit nervous with because he scored on the first drive, and then the Bengals pretty much went to nothing. I think Chase Brown is going to be very good, and I mean, the Bengals just really couldn't get anything going. The whole team kind of stunk this week, so he's probably their best player. So definitely good to have him on your team. Chuba Hubbard, I believe he got a late touchdown. Yep, he had one touchdown on I think a big, I don't remember. Um, I think I turned off the game by then because I was so mad at Trevor Lawrence. Um, but I know he got a good late touchdown. He played well. I think this is a very strong, is that third or fourth round pick? 41, so fourth round. I think that's a good pick by Boss. Nico Collins had a really rough game. I think the Texans offense as a whole kind of stunk. I think he'll bounce back. And so, like, I wouldn't worry too much about this. I mean, if he had about the game you would expect, the boss would have beat me. And no one on his team really did anything crazy other than the next player we're gonna get into, Garrett Wilson. And I would actually say I'm very high on Garrett Wilson now. Uh, Justin Fields played really good against, I would say, a mid-pack Pittsburgh defense. He had 9 targets on 7 receptions. I feel like a lot of these points came pretty early on, but 19 points is definitely a great week. I feel like that'd probably rank him pretty high among receivers. Actually, I was gonna look up there, but you can probably see on here where that puts him. Position rank 6. So that's pretty. I'd say Garrett Wilson is one of the players I was a little bit low on in the original video, but maybe I'll have to redact that statement and you know uh, consider putting a Boston receiving core higher. But we'll have to see after next week. I think Nico Collins will bounce back, so I think that makes them a little better than me. Sam Porte played pretty good on a day when Lions couldn't get anything going. They looked really bad. They might be missing Ben Johnson, but he's still a solid player. Jamison Williams, again, just played in the Lions offense this week. They looked really poor. I actually don't know how many targets. He got 5 targets. I mean, that's about what. I mean, it's a flex play. Jamison Williams is to me a fine flex play. You're getting 5 targets a game. There's always a chance for a touchdown within that. Um, and yeah, then the boss's bench, Travis Etienne. They trade away Tank Bigsby. I mean, to me, he is pretty much the clear cut RB1 on the team now. So a boss, has a RB1 on his bench. I mean, you can probably fill him in for Jamison Williams here, and I mean, I feel like that makes your boss's team pretty strong. Javante had 19. I will say he is the clear cut one. I don't actually. I think a lot of people are overreacting him because he's getting the 1 yard touchdowns. I mean, 15 for 54 is not very good, but no one else really got much play. I know Miles Sanders had the big run, and he fumbled that drive, so I feel like that kind of helps the value of Javante, especially because that was a game-costing fumble. Keenan, I mean, he looked right back. He looked much better than I thought he did on the Bears. He has obviously that history and connection with Justin Herbert, so that could, I mean, a boss has a lot of players on his team that he can instantly slot in, and I think maybe I didn't value that enough when I honestly didn't really know whenever I did the first video, and so if like these guys perform again next week, I would say there's a good chance I boost a boss's I would say there's a good chance I boost his bench up from 7 to potentially much higher, which would, in turn, every single point on here effectively gets put you up point 0.2. So, like, if you went to 1, that'd make 1.2, put him around this range, and then there's some other players that I'm sure would boost them up too. Like, obviously, I'm going to move down on tight end, so I'm gonna think a boss is probably gonna move up closer to like this four range um next week, but we'll just have to see how everyone performs week two. But yep, so that's that matchup. Uh, gonna get into Ryan and Tate's, and so Ryan and Tate's is where I'm gonna, I guess clearly it was the lowest scoring matchup with a win. Um, and that's kind of one of the themes of this week is I believe this was the first time since 2000 in normal scoring half PPR that there was no 30-point players between um, before Sunday night and Monday Night Football. Obviously, on Sunday Night Football, Josh Allen put up over 30. Justin Herbert doesn't count because our league has different QB scoring. But yeah, so like I think the scoring overall this week was much lower on average. There's a few teams that did well, but Ryan and Tate is definitely not two of them. Um, and I think overall their theme was kind of like there's a lot of players that kind of underperformed, I think. Um, and maybe just the offenses didn't play as well as we would have expected. But like I think they'll bounce back. I don't think Ryan and Tate's team are bad. Um, like we'll get around to Tate's team, but Joe Burrow, he like I just don't even know what happened. Honestly, it's just the week one Bengals. For some reason, they just think and somehow they pull out the win against Cleveland, which I don't think Cleveland's good either. Um, you know, so it's one of those things that week one Bengals always start slow, but I'm sure the offense will be back in the form by midseason. So I'm not really worried about Tate with Joe Burrow. Christian McCaffrey had I believe very high usage, 22 carries, 9 receptions. I mean 31 touches a game. That's kind of ridiculous. Uh, and so, like, Christian McCaffrey is what we think Christian McCaffrey is. If he stays healthy, then he is debatably the best running back in football. And if he's not but the issue is that he might get hurt. Um, David Montgomery, I'm actually a little more positive on, even though the offense sucked, just because he had 11 carries, four receptions. I mean, that's 15 touches in a game. That's like RB1 slash RB2 territory, and that's about where he has them. And so him and Jameer Gibbs actually split a lot more carries than I thought. And so I would be feeling pretty good to have David Montgomery. I thought he was going to take more of a backseat this year, but clearly that was not in the game plan, and he's staying strong. Drake London had a lot of targets. I believe he had like some crazy number. He had 15 targets, 8 catches. So not the most efficient game, but like Drake London's gonna get the targets. The main thing to worry about with him right now is that shoulder injury, which I actually don't even know. Said I do expect London to play. Be cautioned. That's not saying he is. So about what we think, we don't really know. But if Drake London's playing, he's going to get targets and you're going to have opportunities. He's going to score more than 9.5. T. Higgins, again, just the Bengals defense. I'm not really sure what his usage was. 3 receptions on 4 targets. Not really great, but I don't even know how much Joe Burrow threw the ball, actually. He threw 23. I mean, 23 passes is a pretty low number for Joe Burrow. So, you know, I think T. Higgins is going to have better games as well. TJ Hawkinson, I think once JJ McCarthy gets more into the offense and I mean, I don't know how if the Bears are the strongest defense, but I think TJ Hawkinson's gonna have better games. Usually rookie QBs should throw to the tight end a lot. I feel like they're usually a pretty safe option, so I think he'll have a better time. Jerry Judy, I'm like kind of mixed feelings because I think Jerry Judy's a very good talent. I just don't like Cleveland. And so it's hard for me to say how good he's gonna end up being, after like a mid-tier game. But it takes flex, and like 9.1 now, the flex is an okay number. 8 targets out of a flex, I feel like that's good too. Like so, that's all right. Broncos defense obviously good. We're gonna talk about that. And Tate's bench, I mean, how many targets did Diggs get? 7 targets. I think that makes Diggs potentially a viable player to play. Nick Chubb, I'm pretty sure was clearly the starter on yeah. So like Nick Chubb, he was good. I thought Cam Scadaboo had some good moments, even though he didn't really play much. Yeah, only 2 carries for -3 yards, but he was playing scrappy out there. Jaden Reed had a good game. Again, I'd mentioned I thought he was a player that was slightly undervalued in the previous video. And then Rashad Bateman didn't really have much to do, but Derrick Henry was running all over the Bills defense, and so is Lamar. So like, I mean, he's clearly like the backseat to Zay Flowers, and so he'll probably just sit on Tate's bench until he drops him. But that is what it is. Wan'Dale Robinson was maybe a brighter point on the offense that sucked. 8 targets. I mean, maybe maybe he'll have better games. I mean, I feel like overall Tate's team actually has pretty good usage. And it's just hard for me to imagine that he's gonna slot many of these bench players in over anyone starting. But overall, I think Taysom's gonna have better weeks. I just think it was down like, if the Bengals were playing how you would expect, he would have dropped 100 plus easy. And so yeah. So on to Ryan's team, Jalen Hurts, plays on one of the most stacked teams in the NFL, so he's gonna be good. I believe he has like the most time to throw of anybody, and his average depth of target is like the smallest of anybody's. So like, he just kind of plays it safe, doesn't really have to do anything risky, and he can run extremely well, especially on Dallas. He'll get to play us again. He'll get to play the Giants twice, so he's gonna have more good games. Jahmyr Gibbs was obviously a little underwhelming, but that was just the Lions offense as a whole. I think maybe there'll be games where uh, once they get more accustomed to the new offense, not having Ben Johnson there anymore, he'll probably be much better. I believe when I've watched Jahmyr Gibbs in the past that he looks extremely good and one of the best RBs in the NFL, if not the best RB in my mind. And so I think he'll be fine. Kyron Williams, had a solid game on a low scoring game. Um, as long as the Rams are healthy, I think he'll be good, as mentioned. Tet, he had some good plays, but the problem is that offense is not very good. Bryce Young looked terrible, but I mean he gets 9 targets, he'll be all right. Devontae Smith, I think will have better games. Like him and AJ Brown against Dallas. Him and AJ Brown against Dallas this week literally got nothing. And I just have to imagine there's gonna be more opportunity. Trey McBride, I thought he looked very good early on. I think the Arizona offense kind of slowed down later in the game and didn't really do much. Had 9 targets, so I mean that's good. It's about what we expect. Is good usage for a tight end, and he'll get his moment. Um, Travis Hunter, kind of in the same situation Brian Thomas was. I will say for Travis Hunter, I did like some of the moments that they had a lot of scripted plays for him. Like they were trying to get him the ball to allow him to make a play, and that's kind of what you want to see is that they're going to try to center their offense around your guy. And I was a little bit jealous. I'm not even gonna lie. Overall, he actually got more targets than Brian Thomas, but he didn't obviously do much with it. But I don't really blame him. I blame it on Trevor Lawrence. Rashee Rice, don't really talk about. He'll be back. He's gonna be good, especially with Xavier Worthy being hurt. I think that's like a few week injury. And with how much usage Hollywood Brown got, I mean, I feel like Rashee Rice is gonna come out going crazy. Debo obviously had a good game. Um, I thought he was one of those players that had the high rebound chance this year. I mean, 10 targets, um, and 1 carry for 19 yards and a touchdown. I mean, that's a great game. He was playing the Giants, I don't think are a respectable team. But, you know, definitely like seeing that usage. He's someone that Ryan could probably slot in, and I have to imagine he's slotting in for next week. Darnell Mooney was hurt. Quinton Judkins didn't play either. Tyler Algier, I mean, just a handcuff non-factor. Kyle Monagai, handcuff non-factor. I will say the Bears offense looked a little weaker. And then Marvin Mims, I think Bo Nix just looked bad. Probably didn't give him any opportunity. Yeah. So not really much to talk about on Ryan's team. I just, I feel like pretty much most stuff's face value. Um, and a lot of like the offenses are a little underwhelming, and I think they'll bounce back. Next team is my dad, Rockstar Domination versus Time to Khalil, Leo. And Leo, I had you ranked pretty highly, and kind of disappointed me by dropping what I have you at? Had you at third and dropped 76. I mean, and your bench really didn't do much. Maybe I'm gonna have to bring the team down a little bit. We'll have to see. But we'll get right into my dad's team here. Baker Mayfield, played solid. You can't really ask more than the projection is what it is. So like he had a late touchdown to, kind of redeem his day. Not that he needed it because, the score gap is so big. JT, um, kind of he got vultured by Daniel Jones twice. And so I have to imagine it won't happen every week. 18, 21, so 21 touches. Wasn't the most efficient on a day when the, Colts were dominating, but if the Colts are a better offense than we realized, I think it's a very good pick. Alvin Kamara, had the usage 11, a touchdown and two receptions. Um, you know, he's about what we would expect. If he's healthy, he's gonna be good. If not, then it's probably not gonna be so hot. Puka Nakua, I think Puka to me. I mentioned this in the original video. If he stays healthy, him and Stafford stay healthy the whole year, I genuinely think he will be wide receiver one this year, just because of how much Stafford loves his wide receiver one. It's always been a thing. He likes to get them the ball, and that's to me that's the smartest way to do things. He's the best player on your team. You get them the ball. I mean, that's pretty like no brainer. But he had 11 targets, 10 catches, 130 yards. So he definitely had a great day. Even on a day when he didn't have any touchdowns, he dropped 18. So to me, he's debatably wide receiver, like overall wide receiver one in the NFL for fantasy purposes. Uh, Devontae Adams, I mean, the offense really didn't do much, and so with as much as Puka got, I feel like 7.1 is an okay day. David Njoku, um, I don't think he's gonna. I don't think he's bad. It's just the Cleveland offense. I mean, he got 6 targets, good amount for your tight end, especially when you took him super late. Um, so he's not a focal point of your team, and he's never gonna be. I don't think. Um, Jalen Waddle, I'm a little worried about this pick. You might need to sign someone else to flex. Maybe Cedric Tillman, honestly. You look pretty good, even though I will say, though, Cleveland just isn't that good. Um, but Jalen Waddle, I mean, it's kind of sad how bad Miami performed. But he did get 5 targets. For a flex play, that is not the worst. There will be opportunity there. And I don't think Jalen Waddle, even with on a bad team, is going to be the worst flex play. I mean, it's hard to get a good flex in a 12-team league that's competitive. um, the bench overall, I mean, Jalen Warren clearly was the clear cut RB1, so I actually like this pick a lot now. Caleb Johnson really didn't get anything, so that looked good, and the Steelers' offense looked pretty good. Um, so that's definitely adds some depth to your team for your running backs that are a little bit worrisome. Austin Eckler, how much did he get? I don't even know. 9 touches, and Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt looked he ended up getting the touchdown. So I don't think you're ever probably gonna play Eckler unless it's like dire. Brock Purdy, I believe he's hurt. May not play this week. His iffy. Status is iffy. Jake Ferguson. Uh, I feel like Dallas' offense is pretty good, so he'll probably have some weeks where he plays good, and maybe you swap him and David Njoku on matchup. Uh, Bishal Tootin, I think he's actually a pretty good pick now, and gets a lot of value from the fact that Tank Bigsby was traded. And so, you know, I definitely like him as a handcuff. And Cedric Tillman had a very good game, and he had, what, 8 targets and a touchdown? Looks good to me. Um, On to Leo's team. And, I mean, Leo just. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, honestly, other than Lamar. And maybe and Brees, actually. Led Brees. Lamar, obviously, is who I said was the best QB in the league. And he dropped 31. It's kind of what you expect. He's one of the best in the game. If Derrick Henry wasn't going so crazy, he likely would have dropped in the 40s. Um, yeah. Brees Hall, I thought had a very good game. Braylon Allen was pretty much a non-factor. I mean, 19 carries, 5.6 average, 2 receptions, 38. That's a great RB1 usage. I really like the pick now, especially because I'm in the late fourth. Um, Tony Pollard, I think they'll have better days. They played a tough defense this week, and so he got the usage, but we kind of expect him to get the usage without Tyjae Spears in. So it's pretty much, no brainer there that he was gonna get it if anyone was getting it. Jamar Chase, I don't know if you've been watching the rest of this video, but I mean, it was just I don't even know what's going on with the Bengals offense. It was shocking. Um, but the Bengals always start slow. Jamar Chase is the best receiver in the league for a reason. I do think that he is the best receiver. I say Puka has the potential to be the wide receiver one in fantasy, but I think Jamar is literally the best receiver. Was the best last year in fantasy, and he does plays that I feel like I don't see any other receiver make. He's great in the open field, can catch pretty much any ball, and is an absolute beast. So I wouldn't be worried. Lad, I will say I did think that what's his name got slightly more usage than I thought. Keenan Allen. And, Quentin Johnston isn't going to catch 2 touchdowns a game. There's going to be more opportunities for Lad to have bigger games. That just wasn't in the script. So I wouldn't be worried about him either. Mark Andrews was definitely disappointing. I don't even know how many targets he got. He had 1 target the whole game. But I think we ran into that last year when we thought Isaiah Likely was gonna, take over, and then Mark Andrews just ended up assuming his role by the end of the year, so he'll probably be fine. Uh, but we'll have to see. It's not like the tight ends were taking everything; they were just running so well that the Ravens didn't do anything else other than throw the Zay Flowers. Um, George Pickens, he's gonna have better games. I think Dallas looked really good. 4 targets, not the best, but they're playing in a really, really tough game, and CD's just the one who got the targets, as you would expect. Yeah, not really gonna talk about defense, don't care. And the bench, I mean, I really can't talk about anybody on your bench, Leo, because nobody did anything. JSN got all the targets. There. Tank Bigsby technically to me is like a good handcuff to Saquon now. And just like, I mean, everything else is, I guess Brian Robinson back up to Christian McCaffrey, but pretty much everything's on factor right now to me. And so we'll move on to I hate Kirk Cousins versus Team Brax. Colin versus Braxton, and this game was a close game for a while, and then Derrick Henry went absolutely crazy. I think the biggest takeaways on Colin's team was, to me, the disappointment in how Bo Nix played and how bad Miami's offense was. Um, but I'll get into that when I talk about the players. Um, So, Bo Nix, I watched that whole game and I thought he looked terrible. He's probably one of the worst QBs in the league this week. Him and Trevor Lawrence both were up there, along with first half J.J. McCarthy and second half Caleb Williams. And so, uh, I mean, I think he'll have better games. I ranked him highly. I'm not going to back out yet. Who do they play next week? They play Indy next week. I mean, if Indy's the God Squad we think they are, this could be real tough. Um, but then they get who else they get? Chargers, Cincy, Philly. I mean, all these defenses actually played really well this week, so we'll have to see. He'll have some good tests, and I think we'll know. Saquon, he's the goat we thought he was. He had a great game. The script had the game really close, so they, you know, but also Jalen Hurts was running all over Dallas as well. I believe he ended up with more rushing yards than Saquon, and that's just how it was. The Cowboys don't have anyone that can get to Jalen Hurts with the loss of Micah Parsons, and so that's just what it was. James Cook, he had 18.7, a great game. It was a very high scoring game. I think he'll get even more look. I don't think he'll necessarily play better, but I think he'll get more looks in usage than this. They clearly wanted to throw a lot of screens early on and run the ball a lot early on. But when the game script flipped, they had to just start throwing the ball. And so like he had some good moments like that. I think he got it all the way down to the one. And honestly, he likely would have had another touchdown on that drive. I think he had like a 30, 50-yard catch or something. Maybe not 50-yard catch. No, it's 58 yards. Yeah, I think it's like a 58 or like a 50-yard catch. And he got to the one, and so he could have had a 24-point game, which still wouldn't have won yet, but would have been a little closer. Tyreek Hill, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him on another team by the end of the year. The Dolphins looked absolutely horrible. Um, I think in better games he'll have more usage. Uh, but that's kind of I was worried about the receiving core a little bit on this team, and clearly they didn't play that well. DJ Moore was been getting hospital balls thrown to him, and Caleb Williams looked terrible, I thought. So, it's hard to really say there's much to DJ Moore. But I think there will be better weeks. I mean, his division games are tough. So, Vegas week 4 looks like a good opportunity to really see. Um, Brock Bowers was playing really good, and then he got hurt. And I actually don't even know. The estimated return is this week, so should be fine. Won't worry about it. Aaron Jones, I would mention. I thought he took a bit of a back seat uh, to Jordan Mason in the run game, but he's clearly the pass game guy, and so like I do think there's gonna be a lot of inconsistency to Aaron Jones this year, much more than last year. So hopefully you can find a good flex, or just keep running them and hope for the best. Ramondre Stevenson, I think he got a decent amount of usage, but overall Travion Henderson, I believe, played better. Juwan Jennings didn't really do much. Chris Godwin hurt. Trey Benson actually might be the good opportunity for the flex because he looked really good and he looked better than James Conner, I believe. I mean, 8 carries, 69 yards, 1 interception, 6 yards, pretty good. Xavier Legette, not too hot on, just because the offense sucks. Stroud sucked, and Romeo Dobbs. I mean, it was just a crowded offense, and didn't really get that many targets, so probably not going to use him very much. But actually, I think Colin got Quentin Johnston, so that actual I kind of forgot that, so that should help your team out. Uh, but on to Braxton's team, I mean, his team kind of centered around Patrick Mahomes and Derrick Henry. Definitely helped him out a lot. Patrick Mahomes, second half, he looked great and was making a bunch of plays. The first half looked rough, but it doesn't really matter if you can ball in the second half. Derrick Henry ran all over um, Buffalo. He looked unstoppable, and as long as he's healthy this year, he's going to be really good. James Conner, I didn't think it was as efficient as Trey Benson, but he still is clear back, lead back, and he got the touchdown on I believe a 1 yard reception, which is kind of funny. Um, Amon-Ra, I think will have better weeks too. I don't think the Lions offense is gonna suck forever. I have to imagine like unless Ben Johnson is just the goat. Terry McLaurin didn't really get the usage we thought. Debo Samuel got a lot more, so that's maybe a little worrisome. But I have to imagine he'll have better weeks. Just the opportunity wasn't there, I'm guessing. Tucker Craft looked good. Uh, crowded offense, but he's a tight end there and got the touchdown on the week. So just, you gotta hope for that touchdown every week from your tight end. Calvin Ridley, I thought looked really, really bad. He got the usage, but he dropped a lot of balls, and it's like on 8 targets, he only caught 4 of them, and so I think he could have had a much better game. And so maybe he'll keep getting the usage, so it's fine, and he'll likely have better games. They're playing a tough defense, so I think he's still viable. Um, but I don't know. I'd necessarily play him over some of the guys on your bench that played well this week, like Jacoby Myers and Hollywood Brown. I think they're both viable options, especially with Xavier Worthy getting hurt. Jacoby Myers obviously played super good. How many targets did he have? 10 targets. I mean, that's a ton for a bench player, and that would be a great flex option. So, the receiving core didn't play good, but, it kind of was assisted by the players on your bench. They can fill in some of those holes. But I feel like that might lead to some tough coaching decisions and a lot of stress. Caleb Johnson, I thought was underwhelming. I mean, he didn't really touch the ball at all. Yeah, one touch for -2 yards. That's a rough one. Jordan Addison obviously didn't play. Caleb looked terrible, but I guess he had 26. Wait, he had rushing. He did 2 rushing touchdowns. He had one passing, one rushing. I mean, and again, we thought he looked terrible. He had 26 points, so I guess maybe he's not as bad as we thought. I don't know. Maybe he might be a viable option. And obviously Brandon Ayuk on the waiver. But yeah, moving to the next one. Next one is Christian versus Allen. All I do is win versus Trophy Son. And Allen was our leading scorer of the week. I'm sorry, Christian, that you had to get slammed by him like that. Um, there's some worrisome. I think there's a lot of worrisome spots in your team, but there's also some, good things that we saw. And we'll get right into that. I think Dak looked very good. I think there's gonna be better weeks. He got them to the one twice, and then it was ran in by Javante, so that's like 8 points there. You would have scored extra, putting you near the 100 mark. So I don't think he's just gonna get sniped by him every single week, and I think Dak will be much better. Achan kind of got bailed out by that late touchdown on a week where Miami looked terrible. He still dropped 15. So Achan's obviously a good option. But then we get into the worrisome part of the team, which is Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. And I believe this is going to be probably one of the most frustrating things you're going to have to deal with all year. Is going between the two because I believe they both got 12 carries and he got 10 carries but 3 receptions. So 13 to 12 touches for both of them. It's pretty much an evenly split backfield. And so really, I mean, you're just throwing darts at a board and hoping you hit, just hoping you hit something. Um, and so, my personal advice would be to maybe play somebody else until you get like a little bit of consistency out of them, or you can see it, or you can just take the bet and hope to God you choose the right one. I think either option's good, just because. I mean, I guess Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt could potentially, be the guy you're looking for. He got 10 carries, 82 yards, and a touchdown. I think it's possibly a better offense than Seattle's gonna be. But you'll kind of have to pick your battles here. I think it's a very tough situation, not one I would want to be in. CeeDee Lamb obviously costed you as well. He could have actually, Six, 50-yard touchdown, 11. He still wouldn't have won you the week, but he could have had a much better game as well. Obviously, he dropped a lot of late passes at the end of the game. He's gonna be, the best receiver on Dallas though. 13 targets. I mean, no brainer. Wide receiver one every single week. He will not be leaving your lineup. Mike Evans, he didn't get the touchdowns, but I believe he did get the usage. 8 targets, solid amount. Against Atlanta. Mika Egbuka, unfortunately, who you were playing against, was the one who did get the touchdowns. I believe he got two of them. Uh, but he didn't get as many targets. Which actually I've been reading the wrong stat the whole time. Nah, I've been okay. Yeah, but yeah, Mika Egbuka got 6 targets compared to your 8. So, overall, he's still the wide receiver one on the team. He just wasn't the one who got the touchdowns. Evan Ingram, um, you know, I think he'll have better weeks, but the offense looked really bad, and so hopefully it'll be better. It's just hard to say. 4 targets. I mean, that's not bad for a late. I guess you didn't take him late, but yeah. I would honestly just hope Bo Nix plays better. But fortunately, even on a game where Bo Nix played bad, Cortland Sutton was a bright spot in your team. 6 catches, 9 targets. I think that's very good, especially for a flex play. As you had mentioned, Cortland Sutton. I mean, I feel like this kind of props you up maybe to be one of the better receiving cores in the league. Let me see. Where'd I have you? All I do is win here. Yeah, it might be hard to move you up. Just because I already had you at 5. That's pretty high. But mine and Leo's continues to play bad. Maybe you can move up over us. Um, and Corey Krosky Merritt obviously got the touchdown. Everyone was hyped about it for fantasy purposes. Obviously, I didn't really care because I don't own him and I'm not a fan of the Commanders. But I feel like he definitely has more value than people were scared for a little bit of. 10 carries is definitely a good amount. Keon Coleman, I believe, is the clear-cut wide receiver one on this team. So, I mean, Josh Allen's going to likely throw the ball pretty well. So, I feel like he's a potential good option. I don't know where you fit him in. You might need to make a trade for a more reliable running back. Um, is kind of where my mind's at right now. It kind of depends. You could potentially like stack him and Ja'Cory for higher value running back that you think you can get more consistency out of. I'm not sure. Zach Charbonnet, obviously I already mentioned him. Him and Kenneth Walker are going to be causing issues. Ollie Gordon, I don't know if he's as good of a handcuff as I thought. If the Miami offense is going to suck, I thought they were going to be much better. So that's going to be a rough one. And then the other guys aren't really much worth talking about. Yeah, I guess Demario Douglas had 7 target. Wait, what the hell? Jesus Christ, he played terrible. I didn't even realize that he just got a touchdown. Oh my god. But yeah, we'll move on to Allen's team. Obviously, Allen's team number one scoring of the week. I had him ranked a little lower, maybe than I should have, but we'll just have to see if they can keep this consistency up into the next week. Let me see where I evaluated him lowest at QB, tight end, bench. So clearly, his QB was not the 11th QB in the league last week. And, you know, Justin Herbert played extremely well, and I believe he's probably a QB2, but he's 5? What the heck? I don't even know which 5 would even be over him. But he's QB5, so clearly not the 11th, and he played very good. And I thought the offense as a whole looked very good against the Kansas City defense that I think is okay. I guess they got slammed by the Eagles in the playoffs. Maybe that's still in their head or something. They're a little scared. I don't know. But I think Justin Herbert should be good. And I've been a Herbert believer, but I just need to see it from him. And so if I see it again, I imagine Herbert's going to move up my rankings. Like, he for sure is moving over Bo Nix, I would say. But we'll have to see. Bucky Irving played all right, but game script really had it as a close game, so I don't imagine he got as much as we thought. Yeah, he got the touchdown, but 18 touches. I mean, you didn't take him in the first round, so like a second round, like I'm assuming what was that 19th and second round. I feel like that's a solid pick. Travion Henderson, he didn't get the usage, like crazy amount of usage, that you would want, but he did. I mean, he kind of did though, I guess, because he got the 6 catches, and that's really what we're looking at here is the amount of receptions he gets. And if he's going to be a predominant receiving back, and they're going to be throwing a lot of dump offs, then I actually think the value could be very high. I thought he looked better than Ramondre. And so I think late season this could potentially get to be a good pick, especially since you're starting 0 or 1 and 0. Malik Neighbors, he got the targets, but that offense is just cursed. I mean, 5 receptions, 12 targets is rough, but I still think. I mean, 12 receptions is obviously goaded. Not many players are getting 12 or targets. Um, and so I think he'll have more games where he catches the ball more often. It's just about the ball actually properly getting there. JSN, I feel like to me, him or Mike were probably the biggest positives on the team. I would say 13 targets, is kind of a goaded amount, especially for a fourth round player. Definitely should be feeling really good about that one. Kyle Pitts as well had a great game, 8 targets from a very late taken tight end. Um, you know, we'll have to see if the consistency stays. It's always kind of been the issue, but maybe Michael Penis can get it done. Mika Egbuka, he got 6 targets, which is a decent amount. I mean, for a flex play, I feel like that's good. And he got the 2 touchdowns. I don't think he's going to repeat the 2 touchdowns, obviously, every single week, but, I don't think you're expecting him to either. But if I mean, he's getting 6 targets a game, I think that's worth a flex play. DeAndre Swift, I didn't think looked that great. I mean, but the Bears offense as a whole didn't look very good. 17 touches, 53 yards. But he got 20 touches. If you got a 20 touch running back on your bench, that is good depth to your team. And I do actually feel like that does make your bench a little bit better than where I weighted it at. And so I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to put it next week. I'm going to have to go over all the matchups that happen in week 2 and figure that out. Ricky Pershall had a great game. I think he, was one of the better players outside. Like obviously, once George Kittle got hurt, their offense kind of became a mess. Christian McCaffrey is like always gonna still be like the #1 receiver, even though he's running back. But I mean, besides that, he probably was wide receiver 1 this week. Um, Braylon Allen obviously just a handcuff, played well. Ray Davis obviously just a handcuff. Kareem Hunt had the same amount of carries as Isaiah Pacheco, so maybe he ends up being better. I honestly don't know how to evaluate him, but could be potential value there. So I actually think your bench is much higher than what I rated initially. So I think your team and your receiving core too. We'll just have to see how they play next week. If they get the same amount of usage, they're likely the best receiving core right now. Um, and so you'd probably move up to here. Let's see. Wait, not there. Sorry. You'll likely move up to here. You'll probably move up on the tight end, especially because I'm losing. You'll move a little here, a little there, I would think. And so that would probably put you up into this range. And I think it's going to get a lot tighter among all the teams. It's just so close. I mean, I think a lot of teams are still really good, even though teams play poorly. But yeah. So we'll move on to the next matchup between our last matchup between Ermin and Justin. Let's see, been running for almost an hour. And so Ermin takes this over Justin clearly by a 10-point margin. And really the highlights on Ermin's team were Bijan and Zay Flowers, who I think I slept on him maybe a little too hard. And yeah, so let's get right into it. So Trevor Lawrence was about as bad as I thought he would be. Feel confident in the ranking I gave him, and honestly, let me see here. Yeah, no, last place is about right. Him, Bo Nix might be right beside him, but we'll have to see how they both play next week. Um, Bijan Robinson, he was probably the best player on the Falcons offense this week, even though he didn't like run particularly well. He caught 6 receptions for 100 yards, which is crazy, and a touchdown. So you love to see that out of your running back. Amarian Hampton didn't play the best this week either, but he got the usage, and that's really what we're looking at for week one. Teams are gonna figure out their identities, and getting the usage is important. 17 touches is great out of a RB2. AJ Brown, you know, worried me, and clearly I was right on this one for week one purposes. I think he'll have better weeks. I don't think he's catching one ball every single week, but it's just how it goes sometimes. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes catches 150 yards next week or something crazy. Um, DK Metcalf, he played all right, but he didn't get the touchdown. Any of the 4 touchdowns actually thrown, but he did get a decent amount of targets. Um, the most worrisome part is they're spreading the ball around, especially in a high scoring game. If he doesn't get touchdown targets, I mean, it can hurt your fantasy value quite a bit. But he is your wide receiver too, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. Uh, Especially because you have Zay Flowers, who got all the usage. I mean, 9 targets, averaging 20 yards a catch. I was definitely very wrong on him, and he played extremely well. For week one purposes, they play Cleveland next week, who played extremely well against the Bengals, and I will likely move your team up, maybe a little higher. But we'll have to see. It depends how he plays. Travis Kelsey, I thought actually played pretty well. In the second half. Uh, you have 4 targets and a touchdown, but you took him like later than you would expected, so I think that's pretty good value. Tyron Tracy didn't really do much. He did get 12 touches, which I think is good. It's just that offense is bad, and so they're not likely to ever be good this year. So you're just hoping you get a high usage game and maybe gets the touchdown. Michael Pittman, I think, was better than Josh Downs, who's on Justin's team. Yeah, 3 targets, 8 targets. We'll have to see if the consistency stays. That's the kind of thing with the Colts is you don't really know who they're gonna use the most, and if they're gonna play as good as they did week one. Clearly, they were very good week one. Um, but yeah, Jaden Blue didn't play. I think Javante's kind of solidified as the RB1 on that team. So, you're just waiting for anything to happen. Rashid Shaheed, just not in the best offense, but he got a lot of targets. 9 targets is a healthy number, and definitely like to see that. And a bunch of QBs. I don't really know how to evaluate your QB room. No one really played particularly great, so you might be in a tough situation each week, just trying to figure it out. Um, and Dallas Goddard, he actually played pretty good, but I don't think you're ever. I mean, he had 7 targets. That's kind of crazy. And if Hurts is throwing the ball short every week, you might actually want to play him some weeks. The matchup's good. But on to Justin's team, and you know, I hate to say it, but Justin may have just got a little unlucky this week. Uh, Jaden Daniels played about as you would have hoped. Um, I mean, you can't really ask more in the projection. Ashton Genty wasn't particularly effective, but he did get a decent amount of fantasy points, and he has the usage of an RB1. He gets the touchdown, saves his day, but 21 touches, I think that's good, and if they keep it up, clearly they want to use him, then I would say he's a safe play most weeks. Josh Jacobs got 20 touches, so clearly a safe 1-2, as you would hope from your first 2 picks. And so, Josh Jacobs isn't really one of those players I'm worried about. I feel like he's going to play good most weeks. The main thing is I feel like he's getting a little older, but I think where that shows age on here. They do not, unless I'm missing it right now. But Josh Jacobs, he's gonna be safe. Xavier Worthy, actually, what did they say on his estimated return is 914. Oh, so yeah, he's just a day to day. It's gonna be hard to evaluate. It's yeah. Um, yeah, that's gonna be a tough hole to fill. I think Rome Odunze potentially had enough usage where you may not feel that bad about trying to fill the gap there, but the team will be lacking some depth to it. Um, is my personal opinion. I think your bench is looking a little rough once you're slotted him in. Marvin Harrison obviously had a very good game. Could have had an even better game if he got that 97-yard touchdown, but is what it is. So I think your starting lineup should be fine, but if anything, I mean, I don't even know what you can do at flex. But I'll wait till to get into that. Tyler Warren is, a vocal part clearly of the Colts offense. 9 targets and a carry, so like clearly they want to get him involved. I mean, that's really good usage, and I think people had said they could have got him even more involved, and he could have racked up more stats. So I'm definitely gonna have to maybe move you up on the tight end list, but maybe move you a little bit down on the bench list. I think. Let me see. Yeah, I had your bench way too high, I think. But we'll have to see how week 2 shapes out before I make a decision like that, and that's why I wait to make these decisions, because I don't want to be, snip, snap, snip, snap. A lot of pressure on one man. But yeah, Jerome Ford wasn't particularly used. Dylan Sampson was clearly the guy they were using, and once Quinton Judkins is in there, it's going to be too hard to even evaluate. So yeah, the flex spot is going to be an interesting play for you each week. And yeah, that's really about it. But let me see. Yeah, I don't know who you play. I'm trying to think here. Um, I feel like you're just throwing Hail Marys, honestly, for your flex. Did they play Denver? And definitely, I don't know. I think you don't play that. I don't know. But yeah, that was just the week 1 recap. Um, I've kind of been running for an hour now, so I'm probably not gonna go into the week 2 matches. Um, just because I've been talking for a while and this took much longer than I thought. Um, but yeah, so I'll keep you guys updated with my rankings next week, and probably not do as much of a video like this and more so into a ranking side. Um, of how what I'm thinking on changing, and I'll talk about every team. I'll still be talking about like the teams, but just more of like a whole, of the 2 weeks. But yep, that's all. Uh, yeah, good luck. May Allah be with you.